Hello, hi, welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well, let's learn English together. And we're here again. That's right. You've tuned into the right show. It's M5's English language show. And we're here, me and the crew, just waiting for you to sit down with your cup of coffee. Okay, are you ready? Okay then, let's get started with today's revision. And hello again. Well, here we are again. As usual, it's time for our daily English lesson. Great! So, come in, sit down, sit down. Are you sitting in your favourite chair? Yes? Great! Fantastic, Mr. Ben. Great! Okay, well, let's get started then. Now, do you remember what we looked at last lesson? You don't? I don't believe you. You, my friend, are talking piffle, pure 100% banana oil. Piffle. Of course you remember. You are, well, what are you? Come on. You know, and I know what you are. And Boris Jackson also knows. You are a god of English. And gods of English don't forget from one day to the next. Anyway, let's have a quick recap just to make sure that we're on the same page. So. Last lesson, we looked at numbers in English again. This time, we learned some more ordinal numbers, didn't we? Last lesson, we learned lots of ordinal numbers. Now we can tell dates in every month because we know all the ordinal numbers from 1 to 31. We know what a compound ordinal number is, and we know that when we make a compound ordinal number, we only write the last number as an ordinal number. It's 34th, not 30th fourth. We also learned that when we write ordinal numbers, we add the last two letters of the word to the end of the number to show that this number is an ordinal number. It's easy to tell the difference between 4 and fourth, for example. We know that the ordinal version of 4 is fourth, and we can see that the last two letters of the word fourth are th. So we add th to the end of the number to show that this number is an ordinal number. The only thing we have to be careful with is making sure we remember how the ordinal number is spelled. First, so first. Second, so second. Third, so third. Fourth, so fourth. Fifth, so fifth. Sixth, etc., etc. Great. So, what else did we learn last lesson? Do you remember what we learned about counting above 100? That's right. When we count above 100, we use and put and before the last number. It's 101, not 101. We say, I ate 372 pizzas last year, not 372. Okay, good. Now today, it's time for us to take another step. It's time for us to look at the next level of numbers. And the next level is the thousands. Okay, so we know that we put the word and before the last two numbers when we're dealing with numbers above 100. So this means that we know that 900 is 900, 909 is 909, and 999 is 999. We know the ordinal version of these numbers too, don't we? Okay, so what comes after 999, 999? Well, after 999, we have 1000. 1000, 1000. Brilliant! We've reached another milestone. We've reached 1000. Excellent! Now, one thing we have to be careful with is this. When we write the number 1000, we have to make sure that we put a comma after the 1, like this. So, whenever we write a number above 1000, we have to put a comma after the 1. So, the number after 1000 is 1001, and the number after that is 1002. Then we get 1003, then 1004, then 1005, etc., etc. So, when we write numbers above 1000, then we always have to put a comma after the 1. Simple, isn't it? Okay, so let's think about the other numbers we can make. Well, we know all the numbers from 1 to 100, don't we? Yes, of course we do. And we also know the numbers from 100 to 999, don't we? Yes, right again. And so far, we combined all of the numbers we know and we created new numbers. We started with single-digit numbers, or units. Then we moved on to two-digit numbers, the tens. Then we moved on to three-digit numbers, the hundreds. And now we learned about four-digit numbers, the thousands. So now we can put all of that information together and create a lot of different numbers. Okay, so let's look at some bigger numbers and how we can write them. Look at the numbers on the screen, and then together we'll check how we write them. Now, let's just take a quick look at some important points about those numbers. There are a couple of things we need to be careful about. The first thing is that we've got to remember to put "and" in when we add numbers after the 100. It's not 102, but 102. It doesn't matter if we create larger numbers, we still have to put "and" in when we add numbers after the 100. 1002 is not 1002, but 1002. Good. Now, what else do we need to be careful with? Well, when we write the thousands as numbers, we always need to use a comma. So it's 1, 000, or 23, 000, or 45, 000, or x, 000. Also, when we write numbers in the thousands, we use commas to separate the thousands from the hundreds and the tens, like this. Okay, now let's try something different. Let's try moving in the other direction. We've looked at large numbers. Now let's look at some smaller numbers. Let's look at some fractions. Let's look at numbers which are less than 1. Okay, now numbers which are less than 1 are called fractions. We can either use imperial fractions or we can use decimal fractions. They're the same. We just write them and say them differently. Sometimes we use imperial fractions when we talk about a half of something, And sometimes we use decimal fractions when we talk about 0.5 of something. They mean the same, we just write them and say them differently. Okay, now we know lots of different fractions. We use lots of different fractions every day. And the ones we use most are half, a third, 2/3, a quarter, and 3/4. Okay, these are the most common imperial fractions we use. Now, let's look at what the words actually mean. Let's see the logic. Well, the verb to half means to cut something into 2 equal parts, to make 2 halves. 2 halves make 1. So if we have a half of something, it's 50% of something. If we split something into thirds, then we need 3 of them to make 100%. So a third is 33.33333 recurring of something. To quarter something is to cut it into 4 pieces. So we need 4 to make 100%. This means that a quarter is 25% of something. We can use 2 verbs here, to halve, meaning to cut into 2 equal parts, and to quarter, meaning to cut into 4 equal parts. There is no verb to third. Okay, so we know that we can say the number 0, 0 in different ways. But right now, at the moment, we're concentrating on decimal fractions. So let's get back to the fractions. When we say a decimal fraction, we have to make sure that we say each number separately. If we want to say 3/4 as a decimal fraction, we say 0.75. 0.75, not 0.75. Great. It doesn't matter if we're talking about a decimal fraction or not. The number or numbers that come after a decimal point are always said as separate figures. So, always remember, we use a decimal point to show that something is less than 1. And after a decimal point, we have to say each number separately. If we're talking about a decimal fraction, or if we're talking about numbers after a decimal point, we always say the numbers after a decimal point as separate numbers. It's 0.87634, 0.87634, not 0.87634. And we say 3.56 billion euros. 3.56 billion euros, not 3.56 billion euros. Now, what else do we need to be careful about? Well, we have to make sure that we use a full stop, not a comma, before the fraction. When we talk about thousands, we put a comma before the 3 noughts, or the last 3 digits. When we look at 33,546, or when we write 142,243, we separate the thousands from the rest of the number with a comma. And on that note, it's time for us to leave you. So, until tomorrow, farewell. Okay, have a great evening, get some rest, and we'll see you here, back in front of the TV, tomorrow afternoon. See you later. Bye.